Letter 80 by Charles Lamb. December 27, 1800. At length George Dyer's phrenesis has come to a crisis. He is raging and furiously mad. I waited upon the heathen. Thursday was a sennight. The first symptom which struck my eye and gave me incontrovertible proof of the fatal truth was a pair of nankeen pantaloons 4 times too big for him, which the said heathen did pertinaciously affirm to be new. They were absolutely ingrained with the accumulated dirt of ages, but he affirmed them to be clean. He was going to visit a lady that was nice about those things, and that's the reason he wore nankeen that day. And then he danced and capered and fidgeted and pulled up his pantaloons and hugged his intolerable flannel vestment closer about his poetic loins. Anon he gave it loose to the zephyrs, which plentifully insinuate their tiny bodies through every crevice, door, window, or wainscot, expressly formed for the exclusion of such impertinence. Then he caught at a proof sheet and catched up a laundress's bill instead, made a dart at Blomfield's poems, and threw them in agony aside. I could not bring him to one direct reply. He could not maintain his jumping mind in a right line for the tithe of a moment by Clifford's in Clark. He must go to the printers immediately. The most unlucky accident. He had struck off 500 impressions of his poems, which were ready for delivery to subscribers, and the preface must all be expunged. There were 80 pages of preface, and not till that morning had he discovered that in the very first page of said preface he had set out with a principle of criticism fundamentally wrong, which vitiated all his following reasoning. The preface must be expunged, although it cost him £30, the lowest calculation, taking in paper and printing. In vain have his real friends remonstrated against this midsummer madness. George is as obstinate as a primitive Christian, and wards and parries off all our thrusts with one unanswerable fence. Sir, it's of great consequence that the world is not misled. As for the other professor, he has actually begun to dive into Tavernier and Chardin's Persian travels for story, to form a new drama for the sweet tooth of this fastidious age. Hath not Bethlehem College a fair action for non-residence against such professors? Are poets so few in this age that he must write poetry? Is morals a subject so exhausted that he must quit that line? Is the metaphysic well without a bottom, drained dry? If I can guess at the wicked pride of the professor's heart, I would take a shrewd wager that he disdains ever again to dip his pen in prose. Adieu, ye splendid theories. Farewell, dreams of political justice, lawsuits, where I was counsel for Archbishop Fenelon versus my own mother in the famous fire cause. Vanish from my mind, professors, one and all. I have metal more attractive on foot. Man of many snipes, I will sup with thee, Dio volent et diabolo nolent, on Monday night the 5th of January in the new year, and crush a cup to the infant century. A word or two of my progress. Embark at 6 o'clock in the morning with a fresh gale on a Cambridge one-decker, very cold till 8 at night. Land at St. Mary's Lighthouse, muffins and coffee upon table, or any other curious production of Turkey or both Indies. Snipes exactly at 9, punch to commence at 10, with argument. Difference of opinion is expected to take place about 11, perfect unanimity, with some haziness and dimness, before 12. N.B. My single affection is not so singly wedded to Snipes, but the curious and Epicurean eye would also take a pleasure in beholding a delicate and well-chosen assortment of teals, ortolans, the unctuous and palate-soothing flesh of geese wild and tame, nightingales' brains, the sensorium of a young sucking pig, or any other Christmas dish, which I leave to the judgment of you and the cook of Gonville. See Lamb. Lamb's copy of George Dyer's poems is in the British Museum. It has the original withdrawn 1800 title page and the cancelled preface bound up with it, and Lamb has written against the reference to the sacrifice in the new 1801 preface. One copy of this cancelled preface, snatched out of the fire, is prefaced to this volume. See letter 93, page 234. It runs to 65 pages, whereas the new one is but a few words. Southey tells Grosvenor Bedford in one of his letters that Lamb gave Dyer the title of Cancellarius Magnus. Dyer reprinted in the 1802 edition of his poems the greater part of the cancelled preface and all of the first page, so that it is difficult to say what the fallacy was. The original edition of his poems was to be in 3 large volumes. In 1802, it had come down to 2 small ones. Godwin's Persian drama was Arba's King of Persia, but he could not get it acted. The reference to Fenelon is to Godwin's Political Justice, 1st edition, vol. I, page 84, where he argues on the comparative worth of the persons of Fenelon, a chambermaid, and Godwin's mother, supposing them to have been present at the famous fire at Cambrai and only one of them to be saved. As a matter of fact, Fenelon was not at the fire. We must suppose that Lamb carried out his intention of visiting Manning on January 5, but there is no confirmation.